Link. Welcome to the Masai Mara, the magnificent, marvelous, mystical, magical Masai Mara in Kenya. My name is Brent Smith. I have Dangerous Dave Easter on camera, and we are coming to you live from one of the most iconic and spectacular wildlife destinations in the world. And we have some white-backed vultures feeding upon a hippo that we suspect was killed by hyenas last night. Now, there was a hyena feeding, but it's wandered off with a full belly to find some shade. But I'm sure later on tonight, the hyenas will be back. And who knows, maybe the lions might come to battle the hyenas for this carcass. And I would love to hear all your questions from the wonderful schools that are joining us. So very, very exciting to have you here on safari, both in South Africa and in Kenya. Now, sometimes it can be a little bit gross when you're watching this type of stuff, but you must remember, nothing goes to waste. Chanel is wondering, what is a carnivore? Well, there's a carnivore on screen at the moment, that vulture, but it's actually, well, I suppose it's more of a scavenger, but it's definitely a carnivore. A carnivore is an animal that eats meat. So vultures, hyenas, lions, leopards, cheetahs, what am I forgetting? Jackals, all sorts. So there are lots of different carnivores, and of course the opposite to a carnivore, Chanel, is a herbivore. A herbivore eats grass and or leaves or plant material, and there's one more thing, which is called an omnivore. And Chanel, and do you know what an omnivore is, Chanel? Chanel, you're an omnivore and I'm an omnivore. It means we eat both meat and plant. So we're omnivores, and I know we only got to see you for such a short while here in Kenya, but to our wonderful schools, it's been grand. I'm glad I got to show you the vultures and the hippo, but we're going to say toodaloo and we'll see you soon. Welcome back to the Mara. The vultures have stopped feeding, and the hippo carcass is looking quite lonely. And well, of course, it's a permanently retired hippopotamus now. Definitely not making any more forays up the hill. We suspect it could be the hippopotamus that stays in our dam that we get water from. And it is quite a morbid sight, so we're not going to stay here too long, especially since there are no vultures and hyenas. Oh, black sawwing. You see it there? Oh, he went off. It's a black sawwing swallow. Just challenged Dave's, and it's gone. Well, we nearly got a black sawwing swallow. Here we go. Here's the last of the vulture. Oh, maybe this vulture might take the chance to come scamper in for a meal. Now remember, hashtag Safari Live if you want any questions for us, and that is on Twitter. I would love to hear from you, from the magnificence of the Mara. I'm going to try and use as many M words today to describe the Masai Mara, so we can have a bit of fun with that. If you've got any nice little combinations, the majestic, magical Mara, the mystical, magnificent, running out here.
Marvellous?
Marvellous, thank you, Jamie. Marvellous Mara. So if you guys can come up with any fun ones, it would be great to hear from you, and just use the hashtag Safari Live on that. And I think we should actually have a competition. Let's have a competition. So send those tweets through. I'll get FC to send them on to me, and we will, Jamie, myself, Dangerous Dave, will have a look there, and we will read out a couple of the best ones at the end of the drive. I think that could be lots of fun. Yay! A game. I like games. And of course, we're going to try to see if we can find some lions. Might take a little meander down towards the Chitwa crossing, and at the Chitwa crossing and along the Mara River, see if we can find the big crocodile that resides there. And also, it's a very good area for leopard. Now, we haven't had a live leopard sighting yet, so maybe we can remedy that on this gorgeous evening here in the Masai Mara. Oh, I forgot. Sorry, the marvellous Masai Mara. was wondering, do I think the park people will remove the dead hippo from the dam? This is not a dam, Bobby. This is not a man-made structure. This is actually a natural seep. So the water comes down from the escarpment that you're going to see behind me shortly. So it rains up there, and then it comes down through the grasslands, and you've got they are a type of duplex soil here. So what happens is you've got this volcanic ash layer, and that's the nutrient-rich area that the grass is like, and below that it's on some of the oldest volcanic rocks in Africa, and of course the water can't get through that rock. So what happens is that water will then travel along the boundary between the ash and the rock, and where there is a chance, just go up here, there we go, Davey, I'm going to duck, I'll duck for you, there we go. There's a chance, there's a natural seep, and the water will make its way through and then run down. Eventually this will goes into a bigger river system, which we call a lugger here, which is like a donga or a drainage line, and then eventually into the Mara River itself. And you must remember, this is a very high rainfall area in compared to the Sabi Sand, so there's a lot of these. So the park rangers will not leave this, will not move this at all. The hippo will stay there. So the hyenas and the vultures and the lions, hopefully, I'm hoping the lions come tonight. Oh, and the tawny eagles. There's a tawny eagle. I saw that tawny eagle a little bit earlier. It has got the fullest crop. It has literally gorged itself on hippo when it gets the chance between the vultures and the hyenas. So it is natural for an animal to die like this. I think the hyenas actually chased it probably into this wallow, and it fought its last fight here. And that's just judging. Well, we can't really see that now, but from this morning when we first arrived, just from the tracks all around the area. So Laura said, so they killed it in the pond. I think they did the damage to the hippo outside of the pond, and I think the hippo's last resort is always to go to water, and this was the only water left. And just from the tracks we saw earlier this morning, they've been obliterated by vultures and hyenas now. That looks like what played out. And that's also, and obviously I'm piecing together like a detective here, because I'm just judging from the noise, the incredible sounds I could hear coming from down here of these hyenas fighting with that hippo last night. Okay, well, we are going to try see where we're going to go next. I think let's go to the north, towards the Mara River, see if we can maybe find a spotty friend, and who knows what else. Now, we're going to do some driving. Someone else is driving around, but a long way away from us is Ali. Let's go see how she's doing. Well, the magical, marvelous, magnificent, and mercurial. There's a new one. Mara continues to deliver, and we're with one of the Angama lionesses who's battling the biting flies that are all around. Fortunately for us, the wind is keeping them away, and I don't think we're quite as smelly as she is, so the flies keep going to her. Remember, this is 100% live from the magical Masai Mara in Kenya, and we are waiting with bated breath for a question from you. And if you want to send us a question, use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. I'm just having a quick peruse around. Oh, those flies are getting very irritating, poor girl. You bite them, bite them. There we go. James, Siggy, and I can't remember who else was that one. I'll find out now. We got Mystical. Oh no, I've gone completely blank. Sorry, could you please repeat? That was me. I was distracted by what I thought was a vulture. Mystical, monumental, and mesmerizing, all really great ones, and that is wonderful. Keep them coming. I'm going to let Jamie be the judge today, so you can decide out of all the words we hear which M is the best to suit the marvelous Mara. And as I said, remember, this is 100% live. You are seeing these incredible animals at the same time as we are, and it is just such an absolute privilege to be able to share the magical parts of Africa with you. Oh, that was horrible English, Brent. Dave is wondering, do lions normally stay in open areas? Well, Dave, it all depends on where you are in Africa. And being in the Masai Mara, it is very open, so they don't have much of a choice. But the lions are able to adapt to different ecosystems. They can live pretty much everywhere, except in the driest of the dry deserts and the wettest of the wet rainforest. But they do prefer sort of savanna is their sort of favorite biome. So that is open grass and mixed trees, which the Mara is pretty much spot on prime lion habitat. And just in the triangle, there's probably we were trying to do the numbers of how many lions were in the Mara Triangle alone, and I would say there are probably over 100 lions just in the triangle, not in even the whole National Reserve and the conservancies. Now Rakesh is asking, do lions climb trees here? They do indeed. We often find this particular pride up a tree. I found 7 of them up a tree once. Well, 2 adults and the rest were cubs, and the reason for that is that there's a slightly stronger wind if you get a little bit higher, and they get up there to try avoid the nasty stable flies that are biting her ears, her tails and her soft bits. Now she's looking across, and I can see, I think there's another lion sighting not too far from us. I'm wondering if it's one of the big boys that dominate this area. So we are going to go have a look there a little later. We might pop past her, but I think she's not going to get moving just yet. Hopefully she proves me wrong. That would be very, very wonderful. But as I say that, she closes her eyes. As I said, I don't think she's going to move, but prove me wrong. And you might hear some thunder in the background. And as what happens, there we go, she heard the thunder. Now that could aid her in hunting. That is great hunting weather for lions. Thunder and lightning and rain and wind, it helps camouflage the sound of them approaching, and also the wind keeps the animals edgy and jumpy, and they're not quite sure where the smells and sounds are coming from. Now we're hoping that this big storm stays away for the rest of the safari. We will give you a view of it a little later, but we're going to do some more driving, see if any more lions about. And while we do that, let's go to Ali, who's also practicing her driving. Welcome back to the magical Mara, and we haven't travelled far, and we are again yet with more lions. It looks like a mating pair of lions, and it's one of the 4 big boys that dominate this area below Angama. So very, very exciting that he's making more babies, and they've just had 3 new cubs. So hopefully in a couple of months we're going to be inundated with cubs that are going to be engorged on wildebeest. So it's a good time at the moment to have cubs around, because there's a massive food source on its way, and these male lions here are absolutely gorgeous. Their manes are massive. Remember, hashtag Safari Live if you've got any questions for us here in the marvelous Mara. And of course, as we know with mating lions, they tend to mate about once every 15 minutes. So a bit of patience is in order, and we might see the next generation in the making. Now I wonder where the rest of the coalition are. They're quite often not too far away when a male is mating, because the fascinating thing about male lion coalitions is that there's constantly sort of a changing dynamic, whoever's in charge. So the biggest, strongest male might be in charge at the moment, and that's probably this guy, because he's mating first. And but once he's hungry and he hasn't eaten for a few days, and one of his coalition members wanders around with a big fat belly, well rested and ready to fight, he'll fight him off and take over the mating rights. Now it is possible, I've chatted to some lion researchers and that a litter of cubs can have multiple fathers. So it is quite fascinating, and that lions' penis is so specially designed and shaped for one of those particular things. So it's barbed and hooked to try and make sure that the male mating impregnates the female, but then the next male, that barb or hook, works to pull his semen out to try and make sure he can jump the gun and get his genetics. Well, jump the gun literally, if you were a lion, all of 2 seconds. They are quite good at jumping the gun. Rakesh would like to know, how many cubs does a lion give birth to at once? Now, Rakesh, in the wild, it depends. It also depends on areas. Up to about 4 is considered normal, but it's normally 2 or 1 to 3 around there. But up to 4 is considered normal. But the largest ever litter recorded in the wild was recorded in Kenya, in Nairobi National Park, and there were 8 cubs born to a single lioness. But that is very unusual. Up to 4 is normal. Anything over 4 is abnormal. And as you can see, I talked about the thunder and lightning just now. We spend a lot of our days here in the Mara dodging rain at this time of the year. So hopefully it stays away for the duration of the sunset safari. But there's literally a wall of water on its way, with thunder and lightning and everything frightening. Fortunately for us, only Dave's scared of thunder and lightning. Shame, Davey. I'm not. I quite enjoy it. I love a good African thunderstorm. Hello, Carter, who's 12 years old. Welcome on the safari, Carter. Carter is wondering, are there tornadoes in the Mara? Well, I suppose not really, no. Not to the same degree as you get in the States. We do get dust devils, but towards October, which is basically a baby tornado, and it is not quite nearly as scary, and it's not going to rip your roof off. Now, very occasionally, maybe once every 50 or 60 years in parts of Africa, we do experience tornadoes. There was one in South Africa not so long ago in the Free State. And you generally need these big open grasslands to produce tornadoes, so there is always a possibility a tornado could happen in the Mara, but it's highly unlikely. And also with the weather cycles we have here, and the fact that it is very, very temperate and it stays pretty much the same for the whole year, it's unlikely that we're going to have to experience a massive tornado. Then I would be quite frightened. Thunder and lightning, not so much, but tornadoes, I have a definite healthy respect for. And I've never even seen one. Come on, lazy kitties. Ooh, there's the thunder. One of the funniest and most wonderful things we do here is take, of course, questions from all of you, and we get some incredibly interesting handles from time to time. So I like you. Nobody likes me. I like you for asking a question. So nobody likes me would like to know where the lions stick together. Generally they do. Now it all depends again on prey availability as well, how much lions stick together. So in the Mara it's not uncommon for a pride to split up and they can find enough food on their own. But generally in a place like Kruger where Taylor and Ali are driving around, the prides tend to stick together far more, and that's because they're often tackling bigger prey like buffalo. I've noticed here the females rarely tackle a buffalo. The males do, and the females will only sometimes do when the males are around. And we actually watched the whole Ngama pride get chased by one buffalo by himself, and they chased them through a lugger. So it all depends, and one must remember that a lot of animal behavior, it can be area specific rather than species specific. So a lion that lives in Kenya will have a different way of behaving to a lion that lives in South Africa, a lion that lives in Ethiopia, a lion that lives in the Congo. And that's one of the most fascinating things about what we do, is that, and also all that behavior can change depending on weather and all those type of things. Okay, I think we might get some action, are we? Ladies? Is he going to sleep again? Oh, no, there's a yawn. Let's just see what plays out here. Oh, there we go. A bit of flirting. Oh, yes, there's the flirting. There we go. See how she presents herself? Okay, I'm going to keep quiet now. Isn't that incredible? Listen to those sounds. Wow, he's got staying power. No, he doesn't. And no, what's going on here? I think he's confused. I think he might have missed. Now, that does happen quite often, strangely enough, with lions. Well, just judging from that mating behavior, it's probably quite far into the mating. They've been mating for a few days already. And you can see she's not too impressed. He's not too impressed. And they are looking a little bit peckish. So maybe they'll go on the hunt this evening. So they've probably been mating for 3 or 4 days already. And you can see what I'm talking about, these Masai Mara males. They are absolutely magnificent. And, oh, it's Halftail. I know who it is. It's Halftail. Hi, Halftail. You stud muffin, you. So Halftail is part of the coalition, and you can notice he's got that missing tip to his tail. So that makes him one of the easier male lions to identify, and we're still figuring it out, what's going on. So there we go. That's nice to know, Mr. Halftail. Now, he's one of the males we did see on that buffalo carcass a few days ago. So we have seen him before, and as I say, he's part of a 4-lion coalition that dominate the top end of the triangle here around the Smucky Swamp all the way through to the Mara River. Oh, beautiful boy. I'd love to know how he lost his tail. I think it was hyenas. Probably when he was a young nomad setting out in the world trying to find his way in liondom. And he probably had an altercation with hyenas who nipped off the end of his tail. Rishikesh is wondering how many months does it take for that lioness to give birth, so what her gestation period is. It's between 90 and 110 days, so just over 3 months for her to give birth. But quite often a lot of the copulations are not successful, so they don't always become pregnant when they mate, and sometimes it takes quite a few different matings or estrous cycles and males to produce the cubs. Oh, guys, there's a warthog coming up obliviously to the lions. The lions haven't seen it yet. I've just managed to spot it because I'm up high. You see it, Darby?
Not sure.
Okay, so there's a little green. Okay, let's zoom in to the right. A little bit more to the right. Just stop there and just see if he's just behind the grass. Okay, a little bit to the left. Center frame. Oh, zoom, a little bit to the right. There we go. Now, it looked like that warthog might inadvertently walk right up to the lions. And the Ngama lions and in this area, the lions in the green season, in the wet season now, most of their diet is made up of warthog. Oh, don't walk that way, walk this way. Come this way, warthog. Now, this warthog's making its way back towards its burrow at this time of the evening, I'm quite sure. So, it looks, it doesn't look too perturbed, just carrying on, being a water pig, doing water pig things. No, just come closer to us. There he is. He's moved a little bit closer to us. And you will see there are other game drive vehicles out and about enjoying the Mara today as well. Now, the lions haven't noticed it. But it looks like the warthog is quite well aware that something fishing's about. The wind is blowing straight from the lions to the warthog, so maybe it's got a whiff of those lions. And I think the warthog will be okay. There's a bit of short grass in between, but you never know. That's the magical thing about being live in the middle of the African bush. We cannot predict what's going to happen next. Well, we can try, but generally when we do, nature likes to turn around and give us a good kick in the behind to teach us to watch, listen, and learn. Now, it's still coming closer. See, the warthog's got onto a bit of a mound there. Oh, no, he went down his hole. His hole was right there. He's gone down the hole. Our beard said it was a volunteering lion snack. Well, it volunteered itself safely into its home. Yeah, but it's turned around. All the lines are up. Let me duck down into my turret so Dave can swing over.
He moved over there.
Oh, she's lying down in the long grass.
Oh dear.
In the long grass. Yes. Now it looks like they want some privacy, so we're going to give it to them. We're going to start slowly making our way back towards camp because we don't want to be caught in the rain. So while we do that, Ali has got one of the most adorable creatures in the African bush. Well, welcome back to about to be very wet Mara. It's actually raining where we were with those mating lions already, but the real rain that's coming that we got to worry about is coming straight down the Olololo escarpment, and that is thick and furious. Now, of course, we had the little game about how many M's could you use with the Masai Mara and marvelous words, and there were so many fantastic ones, but Jamie and I decided Jeanette McKinnon has won, and it's just because it just rolls so nicely off the tongue. It is, what is it? Moist, muddy, murderous Mara. So well done to Jeanette, that was fantastic. And guys, please, I think we should play this game again maybe tomorrow. It's been great. We'll think up a new one, but we got to avoid that rain. Dave doesn't want to get his hairdo wet. You know, he's very particular about his lovely, glorious, long, lion-like locks. So we are going to get moving, and actually you can actually see it move. It's actually coming quite quickly, so it's probably traveling about 100 meters every couple of minutes. So we're going to dash for the FC, who's got its first layer of paint, and it's obviously not going to be white. That is the undercoat. Here it is, nearly done. Kirsten will be happy when that is done, and you can see the studio window. Okay, well, we're going to give you one last look at that glorious rainstorm that's approaching, and then we're going to say bye from the marvelous, magical, mysterious, mercurical Masai Mara.